In 1977, I was a student at Yale University as an undergraduate, and I decided I really needed a teacher. There was no guitar teacher there, and I felt that Bach was the one weak point in my repertoire. So I looked in the phone book, found her name listed in New York, called her up, and said, I'd like to be your student. She actually said, well, let's try one lesson and see how it goes. So I went to New York, had a lesson with her. She said, yes, I'll take you on as a student. And for the next year, we worked on one suite of the 4 Bach flute suites. That was 996. And each time I'd come to a lesson, I think we would move on, but we just moved on to the next level. And it was really remarkable work. Rosalyn Tureck could be a very, very warm, loving, giving, generous human being, and that's the person that I knew. She also had a great sense of humor. She was very demanding of herself and expected no less of anybody else. So the fact that she was a perfectionist with others was only because she expected that of herself. I remember one time she was describing her experience back in the 1950s when she was invited to conduct the Philharmonia Orchestra in London in Festival Hall. And she walked into the first rehearsal and saw the sea of men, and she thought, oh my goodness, how are they going to take me as a woman? They haven't had a female conductor before. So she started to work, especially with the principal flutist, a lot on embellishment. They were doing the Brandenburg No. 5. And after a little while, the concertmaster got very jealous. He stood up and he said, why are you spending all this time with the flutist and not with me? And she could sense the tension building, and this was going to be a doom or succeed moment. So she looked at everybody and she said, well, if the truth be told, I prefer blondes. And everybody burst out laughing, and they were just great after that. And there was another time when this was actually a very sad moment. She was on her deathbed, basically, and I was visiting her, and I had just done a recording with the Zurich Chamber Orchestra, and it included a work that she had arranged especially for this recording, and she'd never heard the recording before. So I played it for her at her bedside, and I was, of course, just miserable at the thought of my dear mentor dying, and it was just a very sad, difficult moment. And all of a sudden, she bolted up in bed, and she said, the G, where's the G? And I thought, oh, great, here's the Tureck that I know and love, she's back. When you think of Rosalyn Tureck, you think of perfection. You think of magnificent rhythm. You think of an ear that is beyond that of most mortal human beings. You think of someone who has really delved beneath the surface to the depths of musicality and scholarship that we can't even conceive of in order to produce what she did, which was on such a high level. So I think of her as someone with enormous discipline, with enormous perfectionism, but in a good way, and great, great passion. And that was one of the rare combinations of her as a scholar and as a performer. She was able to bring both of those skills to the fore: great scholarship and magnificent, passionate performance. She was a goddess. I mean, if I had to describe Rosalyn Tureck with one word, it's impossible, but to me, a goddess is someone who encompasses everything, someone who has the depth of humanity, the depth of her professionalism, her artistry. She was a great, great artist, and in every sense of the word, that's what she projected. I think anybody who goes to study with Rosalyn Tureck begins in a very naive way to think that they know something, and they discover very quickly they know very little. So what I learned from her was discipline in a way that I'd never experienced before, and the need to really pursue the musical ends to the very final nth degree. There, of course, is no final degree. We're always striving, we're always growing, we're always creating, but to never be satisfied and to always probe for more and to be a perfectionist. That's what she taught me. Well, Rosalyn Tureck transformed the whole concept of interpretation and understanding of Bach in a historical context. And she brought to the fore the tools of Baroque performance practice that would be necessary for those of us for generations to come to understand and to learn in order to interpret the music of Bach. So for that, I will always be grateful that I was able to study with her for 10 years and benefit from her lifetime of experience. And now for me to share that with others, I recorded all the Bach lute suites that we edited together, published them with G. Schirmer, and have been able to leave behind both a legacy on paper and on recording so that others can learn from that as well. And what she brought to the keyboard was a whole new technique, which transformed the ability to play Bach, and of course with the knowledge and scholarship of embellishment, articulation, dynamics, phrasing, structure. Structure was always at the core of everything that informed her interpretive decisions. I would want to tell her thank you and that I love her.